Hello and welcome back to the Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso, here with my boy
Soltero.
Do you remember what you said about Tati Castellanos 8 months ago?
Tati Castellanos, big fan of him. I thought he would do maybe decent at Girona, but it was more like a hopeful type of sense towards him. It was like, I hope he does well because he did so well in the MLS, but why bring it up now?
How about this? How about producer Rudd, could you please go to our Instagram browser cam this? Go to Instagram for me, please.
Can hope is that he takes this opportunity to work hard.
Yeah.
If he does that, then I can see Castellanos getting even 10, 15 goals, and that's a success.
Double digits would be amazing.
If he gets 10 goals, that's an immediate success for Castellanos, and I think that would propel him to maybe like a mid-table team.
Fast forward to today, 8 months later, Castellanos had a haul, which is what they call after a hat trick. It's a haul, apparently, Haul, against the one and only Real Madrid to defeat them 4-2, which pushes him up to 11 goals in La Liga instead of what was once 7.
Right.
And in a way, once I saw that happen, I was like, man, this is it's like a mini Holland type of take. It's like your bootleg Holland take that was just working in the background and it had itself come to fruition, man. So Tati Castellanos, a big player in the MLS, going through a very interesting career arc, finally making a name for himself and doing really good in La Liga, man.
But that's the thing about Castellanos and why I was so excited once he got that move to Girona is that he improved his level of play in the MLS. You could see it. The difference between his first year and then the last couple of games in the MLS, night and day. He became a true professional footballer in the MLS. And then from there, I could easily see him doing well at like a mid-tier European team. And so the fact that he's been able to go to La Liga and basically do the same things, get 10 goals in his debut season in Europe, bro. I knew he had it in him. Now, I didn't know 100%, but I knew he had it in him, bro, because at the end of the day, dude, he's crafty. He's excellent in space, but more importantly, Castellanos is a finisher. It's what he's really, really good at. He's not going to be your traditional type of striker, but you get him the ball in deadly spots, bro, he's going to put the ball in the back of the net. And so to see him actually hit his 11-goal mark with this beautiful haul against Real Madrid, bro, I'm so happy for him, man. And honestly, I just can't wait to see where the rest of his European career takes him, whether it's maybe a couple more years at Girona or maybe he gets that move to, let's just say, a slightly higher team in Spain.
Yeah, and I've been saying it, man. If you are a resident or a citizen that is a part of the Argentina culture, you are automatically doing better in life and specifically in football following the effects of the World Cup victory. Castellanos is another example of that, man. An Argentine thriving right now in La Liga. Excited to see how his future continues to grow and what we continue to see from him in terms of his progression within this league. Manchester City is facing off against Arsenal tomorrow. By the time this episode releases, the game will probably already be finished or it will happen like right before it. So I want to give our predictions right now to see which one ages the best. Right? Okay. Let's see. This will be fun for the listeners, bro. If you're driving right now listening to us, you're perked up because like, oh, let's see who the fuck was wrong or who was right, man. So all I want to know is who do you have winning this game, by what score, and give me like a sentence or two on like what the outlook of the game is going to look like.
I just wish it was at the Emirates.
Really?
That's it.
Okay.
Because I think that very fact will only give it to Manchester City at this point now. The fact that it's at the Etihad, Arsenal have been relatively poor these last 3, maybe even 4 games, especially on the road, even though their last tie was at home. I do think the Emirates crowd would have at least pushed them to excel a little bit higher. But with Manchester City's form, them being at home, Erling Haaland, Pep Guardiola, the fact that Arsenal just essentially lost their favoritism with that tie against Southampton, it's over, bro. Even a draw will go in Manchester City's favor. The title race is flipped, and I think Manchester City is just going to make it worse and really put the dagger in Arsenal's heart. So, yeah, I have Manchester City winning.
Give me a score.
Let's say 3-1 or 2-0. 2-goal margin.
Okay. Scores?
No, I can't do that.
Give it a minute.
I think For tomorrow, I'm going to go see the game with an Arsenal fan that I met. We're going to go to an Arsenal bar, the Tavern here in Austin.
Is it Arsenal?
Yeah, so
is
that's
it really?
Arsenal's. Yeah, it's Arsenal. We're going to be in an Arsenal-heavy atmosphere, bro. Nothing but Arsenal fans. And they won't know that while I'm watching this game tomorrow and the episode is uploading, that I picked Manchester City to win the game. And I have Manchester City beating them by the same result that they beat Liverpool at home most recently, 4-1.
That'd be amazing.
That's what I have. I wish this episode came out early so you guys could put money on it, because Reynoso the Reindeer is 100% certain of this. I feel really good about this prediction.
About a 4-1?
I got Manchester City putting 4 goals on Arsenal's head. And like you said, putting that dagger into him.
Yeah, dude.
But man, wouldn't it be crazy if Arsenal wins and
they get it back?
And this is our take, And like
we're both wrong.
Yeah, age is like milk, dude.
Yeah.
Age is bad. Age is bad, bro. I want to give our predictions, or rather our preview, for the semifinal matchups of all European competitions.
Oh, please.
Yeah, a little update on what has happened since, looking back on our predictions and seeing how we did overall and who's going to meet each other in these big tournaments. And so the first one I want to do real quickly is, of course, the Champions League, man. Mm-hmm. And since we were just talking about Real Madrid, let's talk about them now. Within the Champions League context, they will be facing off against Manchester City. This matchup is going to be fucking incredible, dude. Yeah. Just right off the bat, this is star-studded, top to bottom, big names everywhere, some amazing crowd atmospheres await us, especially at the Santiago Bernabeu. And once again, a lot on the line here, because this is it for Pep Guardiola, within that sense of he's at Manchester City, he's had so much money to spend, and he has yet to win that Champions League trophy. That was the pressure that was put on him this season going into it with Erling Haaland joining the team. This is it for him. And on the other side, it's Real Madrid, man. Yeah. It's Real Madrid. This is what they do. This is what they're famous for. This is all they know how to do. Two major teams matching up, man. How do you just initially feel about this matchup?
For me, it's not a question of who wins this game. It's a question of how badly does Manchester City beat Real Madrid, bro? And I'm being 100% serious. I don't care how hot of a take it is, or how aggressive it sounds, or maybe low-key how disrespectful it is, because, look, I understand. Yeah, I mean, I was actually going for Madrid against Liverpool last year simply because of the legacy, right? And you just said it perfectly. Madrid know one thing for certain, and that's how to win in the UEFA Champions League. Despite all of that, I think finally there is a team that I have my absolute trust and faith in to topple that notion. And that is Manchester City. Probably the best team in form right now in all of Europe, definitely all of the world. So I just truly do not see a way over 2 legs for Madrid to beat this Manchester City side. Now, obviously, I do think it'll be competitive because Madrid are going to take this seriously. It's the semi-final of the UEFA Champions League. But I just only see Manchester City winning this. So I don't really have a lot of back and forth here. If this was maybe a different tie, I could give the weaker team points here as to why they could beat the bigger opponent. But in this case, bro, truly, I bet my fucking house that Manchester City would go through to the final. So that's all I have to say, man. It's Manchester City or nothing for me.
Damn.
Yeah, dude, I'm all in.
I love it.
I'm all in.
What would the outcome look like? Can you even envision them losing, man? What's that gonna look like for you, man?
Yeah, I think I said it in the last episode. Madrid beating Manchester City truly would surprise me. And it takes a lot to surprise me nowadays, considering I've watched, what feels like 20 years of football and it's only been 10. But I've seen so much. I've seen so many surprises, so many things where I just could not expect. This is going to be one of them. If Madrid do beat Manchester City, I will be surprised. I will write up a 10-page apology to do live on this podcast, because I truly will be surprised if Manchester City lose to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I'm being as open as I can about this. I only see City in the final.
I love that.
And that's me.
I love that. No, I love that, dude. I really do. It feels almost like your club version take of how anti-Argentina you were during the World Cup.
A little.
Of how pro-Manchester City you are. I mean, if we just dumb it down to those standards, obviously it's much more complex.
Right.
And the thing, the reason I'm not too hard on you for is because I'm actually on the same page, buddy. I'm right there with you. Yeah. Maybe not as confident, but
sure.
If I look at Team A versus Team B, I'm going with Manchester City, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I just think that this season specifically, in nearly every single facet, they've shown to be a better team overall than Real Madrid. Obviously, there's so much more to Real Madrid beyond what they're going through this season. The history, the legacy, the players, everything that club encompasses comes into play in the Champions League and helps them, is almost like an advantage to them, unlike any other squad that exists in this world, dude. So that's a big pro and a big help towards Real Madrid, is just knowing that they have that history of winning in these big situations. Yeah. But even last year, man, with what I considered a lesser Manchester City squad, I mean, they had it in the bag, and they ultimately choked it with Real Madrid going on an incredible comeback run in the last 30 minutes to steal that win away. That's what it took for what I believe to be a better Real Madrid team back then to defeat a lesser Manchester City team.
Great point.
Now we're talking about a team that has dipped in Real Madrid and a team that has heightened itself in Manchester City. And I just think I'm going to have to go Manchester City this time around, man. I mean, you had Fernandinho getting megged on the way to a goal by Vinicius Jr. last season, man. That shit ain't happening anymore, man. There's no Fernandinho in this fucking squad anymore. You got Rodri. You got killers. John Stones is fucking playing incredible now.
Prime Stones right now.
You got incredible players all around now. I don't see as many players that would be considered a liability. I don't see players that can be easily exposed on this Manchester City team. So even just analytically, I think it's Manchester City's to lose. And if they do, then yes, we'll have that conversation. And I might have to write a paragraph in your apology letter because
of an excerpt.
But I am ultimately going to go Manchester City on this one.
Yeah, what's crazy about that is, let's just say Madrid do win, we will naturally fall into the same trope that all Madrid losers face or fall into.
What's that?
The idea that no matter who Madrid play, that they're always favored if playing in the Champions League. And again, I looking at CBS Sports, as we live here in the United States, a lot of the pundits there, except for Thierry Henry, my boy, are going for Madrid simply because of that
really?
idea.
I didn't see that.
The idea that it's legacy that wins Madrid these titles, which is true, man. I mean, we've seen it the last decade. The amount of Champions League titles that they've been able to win is just down to that history, but also that pedigree. And we have talked about Madrid so much, and I saw a comment on one of our maybe a YouTube or TikTok video saying that we're Madrid lovers. But
really,
here's what's crazy about that: I have no choice these last 10 years other than to praise Madrid for how good they've been. That's how successful that club has been. That I am given no choice but to actually praise them, give them love, and shower them with all of these compliments. When in reality, bro, I'm an Atletico Madrid fan.
That's what's crazy, bro.
That's what's crazy.
That's crazy.
But
you got to be objective.
I always try to be as objective as I can. And what's crazy is the reality is Madrid are winners in this tournament.
5 Champions League in the last 10 years, bro.
Exactly.
If that's any team, if that was fucking Stuttgart, I would be talking about them this much, bro. That's what it is. I'm not trying to be biased.
Exactly. So that's my point. But again, if we get this prediction wrong, then we're just going to fall into it once again.
It'd be back-to-back years for me, though, because I had them losing against PSG. I had them losing against Chelsea. I had them losing against Liverpool. Yeah. Every round of the knockout stages last year, a lot of people felt this way. Yeah. And we were proven wrong. If it happens again, bro, they might find themselves in another fucking final, man.
That'd be nuts.
That'd be nuts. Crazy. And I'll have to be singing their praises for yet another season.
Yeah,
bro.
No, that's what I'm saying. That apology will be filled with nothing but Madrid compliments. But it's not gonna fucking happen. It's not.
Who they face off, who the winner faces off in the final will be hella interesting because, brother, I need your instant reaction on this. A few weeks ago, you went on a whole tangent, a whole spiel about how much you hated what you considered overrated San Siro.
Yeah.
And just as destiny would have it, can I offer you a Champions League semifinal where the only place where both legs will be played at is at the fucking San Siro?
I realized I was a little flawed in my take.
Oh.
So my initial take was the acoustics, the sound waves don't travel that well in San Siro because it's very perpendicular. It's basically almost a perfect square, a perfect rectangle, if you will. Both sides basically meet each other. There's no curvatures, but it's a really beautiful stadium. It's very big. But because of that parallelism, the sound waves kind of cancel each other out. What I forgot to take into account was I was considering Milan between 2012 and let's say 2018, 2019. A considerable 7 years out of, let's say, the last 12. And during those times, both Inter and Milan were, pretty garbage.
Yep.
And I think that definitely played into the idea that San Siro, in my eyes, was not as loud as I thought it should be. But seeing Milan and Inter Milan play this, I would say these last 2 years, seeing the people of Milan show out in the San Siro, it's the loudest I have ever heard it. Now, obviously, I haven't watched football like prior to 2009, so maybe at a time it was also very, very loud. But I think that's what played a major point in it. Both Milan teams struggled for like a good 7-8 years, bro. And I think that played into the idea that the sound wasn't as big. But, bro, now, especially like in these Champions League encounters, that stadium's fucking rocking, dude. It really is. And so I'm actually kind of excited about this tie, bro. Okay. I'm very, very excited about this tie because it's going to be lit. We have a derby as a semi-final matchup, man.
That's rare.
That's so rare. Two teams from the same goddamn city going at it for a chance to play in the UEFA Champions League final. I'm incredibly excited to see what happens. And I'm curious to know, bro, who do you have going through? Because low-key, I'm kind of at a loss here.
Really?
A little.
I feel like there's an easy answer here.
I thought the same thing too, but then I really analyzed it and I look back at all of the past games
analyze, brother?
that both teams have gone through, and I think this is going to be incredibly tight.
No, yeah.
It's going to be incredibly tight.
Yeah, okay. I do retract what I said. I initially, there's an easy answer, I think, but
yeah.
Lately, man, I've been going into a lot of games thinking that one team is just heavily favored against the other. And this applies to both soccer and fucking NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
And we're seeing some crazy upsets happening just all across. Girona beat Real Madrid today, bro.
Right. yeah, crazy.
And so I'm being a little hesitant right now, man. Maybe there's some sort of juju energy in the air these past few months where we're just seeing some crazy results. So I think this is going to be hella tight, man. This is going to be so physical. That midfield battle is going to be one for the ages, man. Because both teams have incredible battling, physical, tough midfielders in their squads are just waiting to just gain possession of that ball and push the team forward. My initial gut feeling, though, does go with AC Milan, man. I think AC Milan in almost every section of the pitch just has a slightly better advantage, man. And it starts all the way at the back with Mike Maignan. I think he's just a better overall keeper than what Inter Milan has to offer. Defensively, what I saw from AC Milan the last 3 times they matched up against Napoli, one of the most fierce offensive teams in the world right now, how they were able to shut them down over so many games, I think is just probably one of the best examples of a team that's ready to face any sort of opposing team. And then the midfield battle, man, I highlighted Tonali, who I really like. You also have Benacer, who can bag yourself an important goal. And then up front, we already know what they're capable of with one of the most underrated players of this generation, Olivier Giroud. Just an incredible big game player who was just in a semifinal of World Cup, now at a semifinal of a fucking Champions League, man. Incredible form. And likewise, Rafael Leao, who's playing incredible this year too, up front. When we compare that to what Inter has, just section by section, I like what AC Milan has to offer more. And I think ultimately I'm going to see them progress to the Champions League final, man. So for me, to answer your question, I have AC Milan winning, man.
Yeah, I think overall, when you look at Milan's offensive portion of their squad, I think they have more to give for sure. But I think the reason why it'll be a lot different when you compare the Milan-Napoli tie to this Milan-Inter tie is Inter know how to make the game incredibly physical. And that's why, in my opinion, I think Milan were able to have a slight, maybe psychological advantage over Napoli, especially since they were missing some big defensive players, Napoli. That why Milan were able to win that tie against Napoli. But I think Inter are going to make this a lot more difficult. And they're going to have to really make Milan's offense work in this tie. But because of that, I think it's just going to be incredibly tight. To the point, bro, I don't know if I can just say a clear outright winner. But if I just had to choose face value right now, who's going to the final, I am going AC Milan.
Damn, okay.
I am going with you. Okay. Again agreeing with you, but I just think this one low key could be like 1-1, 2-2 over both legs.
Penalties?
Maybe pens, maybe extra time, or maybe some crazy like late last goal in regulation to win it by a 1-goal margin. Yeah. I think it's going to be that tight.
Damn, dude, yeah, all for the privilege to get fucked by Manchester City.
At the end of the day, baby.
Now, can we have that conversation, bro? Is despite how awesome it is to see this derby happen and to see these two Italian teams match up, I mean, the truth of the situation is these aren't even league leaders in Serie A. These are top 4 teams, top 5. But is this one of the worst potential finalists that we are going to see in the Champions League, man? Like, or at least semifinalists, even that. Like, remember when like Tottenham made the final against Liverpool?
Right. That was disappointing, and at the end it was disappointing. Tottenham's run was amazing, but it became clear that they're like, oh, okay, they're not finalist material at the end of the day. Yeah. That's a good point. I was thinking about this the other day, and this is where it gets really tough and why sports, I think, just exists. Because when you look at the contextual tables of the Premier League and Serie A, I think you can get confused. Yeah. And I even get confused looking at it because I look at the top 10 in Italy, and I see them as like all the same if you take out Napoli as a crazy outlier. Lazio, Roma, Juventus, who got their point reduction rescinded, by the way. Milan, Inter Milan. Let's keep going. Fiorentina, Bologna have had a really good season. Udinese as well. Exactly my point. So you list the top 10. I see a lot of parity in Italy. And I think that's why a lot of these teams, Milan and Inter included, have struggled to rise to the top. What Napoli have done, I kind of take back what I said last week, saying that Napoli really should have won the Champions League tie. What they've done in Italy this year, actually pretty incredible. They have a huge, still 17-point lead at the top. That's an incredible margin. And the rest of Italy is kind of struggling with one another. But I think it's because it's really, truly very competitive, man. I really do think so. And so much so that I don't think it's getting credit. Really? I really don't think it's getting that much credit. Because
this is a good conversation.
It's a great conversation because you compare it to, let's say, the Bundesliga.
Sure.
I think the Bundesliga is kind of close because you have Union Berlin, Leipzig, Dortmund, and Bayern. But that's all I'm going to say. Freiburg tried. Right, Bayer Leverkusen had such a bad start to the season that their form now is just, it doesn't really matter as far as the league table is concerned. Wolfsburg has been very sporadic. When they're good, they're good. When they're bad, they're really bad. Frankfurt, even though they made a Europa League final appearance last year, they won it. Yeah, exactly. They've been, again, very inconsistent, right? So I would say there's a good contingent of competitive teams in the Bundesliga, but not as much as in Italy. I'm going to be completely honest. You go to Spain, and you know my opinion on Spain, bro. It's just Barcelona, a little bit of Madrid. That's it. Atletico have had a really poor season. Yes, they've been better this calendar year. But even that, if I were to put this Atletico team right now in a UEFA Champions League group stage, I'd still be worried. Because offensively, it's not working as consistently as we have had in the past couple of years. We're not flowing as well. Griezmann looks to be having a good time, but I'm talking about the grand scope of European competition. I'm not convinced by this Atleti side. And Atletico low-key are trying to get second place in La Liga right now. So the rest of La Liga, I don't even look at, man. Yes, there's good football, there's good talent, but competitively, they can't really touch any of the Madrids or Barcelona. So for me, La Liga is just not it right now. France has been interesting, but outside of, let's say, PSG, Lens, and maybe Marseille, that's about it. So 3 teams, right? 3 teams compared to Italy's 8 that I just listed. No.
Reduce that down. Bring that down to 5. Bring that down to 5, man.
I don't think so because if you have Roma, Fiorentina, Milan, Inter, and Napoli just were there.
Okay.
4 teams all still in European competitions, bro. Sure. That's really impressive.
And that's a conversation I want to have.
Right. And so here's where it gets tricky.
Go ahead.
How do you put this all into context? All I can say, though, the results almost speak for themselves. The fact that these Italian teams have been able to go so deep has to mean something. At a certain point, luck would die, and you'd only have one, maybe max 2 Italian teams. But we have we have double that amount. So for me, the idea of luck is a lot lower than I initially thought. So I've questioned myself to go look at the Italian table and see what actual talent is there. And I think it's very equal, bro. I really do. Right. From second to 7th, second to 8th, I think it's pretty much on par with everyone. Obviously, there are teams who have more talent. You know, Lazio have really good players. Juventus obviously have an incredible squad. But still, even then, they could lose to, for example, a Fiorentina or Bologna on any given day because of how equal it really is. But again, it's all contextual because you could bring to me some sort of thesis and be like, Italy ain't that good. They're just a little lucky this year. And I might believe you. So yeah, I'm with you. There's a lot to talk about here, but I think I gave some pretty good examples looking at Bundesliga, La Liga, League One. The only other one would be Premier League, but even then, that's where it gets tricky. That's where it gets tricky because all
argument, right? Because about to make,
right? Because all we have left, realistically, is just Manchester City.
I'm on the complete opposite spectrum because my perspective with it is shifted because right now. What you have going for you is that there are 5 Italian teams in European competitions, and we're all at the semifinal stage now.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's insane.
That's insane. You're absolutely right. That does, yes, luck does play a factor, but a big part of it is also just that Italy's in a really good fucking place right now, man. And the fact that the best Italian team isn't even a part of that group of 5 is a crazy sign of how much the league has progressed and what we're seeing in this European competition context. My thing is, and this is a hot take I've had kind of brewing up for a while, but I think despite there being 5 Italian teams remaining in 3 semifinal competitions, so out of a total 12 teams, 5 out of 12 are Italian, I don't have Italy winning a single one of these competitions. I don't have them winning a single one. Yeah. No. Champions League, I got Manchester City. Same. Europa League, I got Bayer Leverkusen. And although for a while I did Fiorentina as a favorite in the Conference League, the fact they almost lost their lead at home and were tied 4-4 for a minute there against Lech Poznan, I believe is how you say it, scared me. It has me thinking that they're not going to win it either.
Well, here's the thing, though. Lech Poznan are an incredible team.
they are.
And I'll get into that.
And they deserve the credit, bro, because they played incredible, man. Yeah. But I think a lot of what happens here, what has happened this season, man, is that knockout tournaments are chaos, bro. They're chaos. Okay. That's what the World Cup taught me. That's what FIFA has taught me. Knockout tournaments are by design chaos. And I think what proves that is the fact that we are seeing 5 Italian teams in a fucking semifinal right now and only 2 Premier League teams, which I think you and I can agree on. Premier League is the best league in the world right now.
It is.
It's the best league in the world.
It
right
is.
Now. So the indictment of them only having one team in knockout stages, I think, is a sign of how chaotic and wibbly wobbly the knockout tournament setup can be at times. And Absolutely. I think we're just seeing an extreme example of that, which. With Italian teams seeing that none of them are going to be close to Napoli this season, none of them are going to be able to sniff their toes for the rest of the season. So what do? Instead of focusing in on the league, they decide to focus in on European competition. So we're seeing these teams go full throttle in these settings, whereas other teams maybe haven't prioritized it as much as these Italian squads. So for me, I'm not saying it's a fluke. I do think it's something good overall at the end of the day, but I think it's getting a little overhyped. The presence of Italian teams in this year's knockout stage tournaments, and a lot of people now I'm hearing a lot of blasphemy all around world football about what started off as Italy being a really good league. People really heightening up that standard and that bar they have for the league right now. And I don't think I ultimately agree with it personally.
So what's crazy is I am the opposite. I was that way at the beginning where I was just like, the Italian league ain't that good. But after looking at this entire season, I'm actually flipping a little bit at the very least, because I think the reason why we see this amount of Italian teams this deep in all 3 European competitions is solely because they're able to game manage these tight-ass games in their domestic league. Whereas, again, in all of the other European leagues, when you play a mid-table team, it's a mid type of team. But in Italy, low key, it's a little bit above mid. And I think just that simple fact has allowed, for example, a team like Milan to go as far as they have because they know how to manage a lot of pressure week in, week out. I think it's more of a mental thing. Skill-wise, and we just said it, quality-wise, Premier League's got it all day. All day. But I think the mental battle of when you're in second place and you have to play a good ninth place, you're like, fuck, this ain't no ninth place. This could be like a fifth, fourth place team. We got to perform here. I think that mental idea is why Italian teams are succeeding this year. That Fiorentina Lech Poznan is the perfect example because, honestly, Fiorentina at home got completely demolished for a good 70 minutes. But what did they do? They just didn't panic. They stayed true to their style of football, and they managed the entire 90. Because that's what football is played over. It's not over 70 bad minutes. It's over an entire 90. If you have a bad hour, you can salvage it in the last half hour of the game. And that's exactly what Fiorentina did. They stayed focused. Yeah, they got a little worried, but overall, as a unit, as a squad, they did not panic. And the fact that they were able to get a banger goal from Soltero to take it 5-4 on aggregate, that meant a lot to me. Because it showed me that these Italian teams, Fiorentina in this specific case, do not panic when they're up against it. And I think it's because they play against slightly more consistently better competition week in, week out. So that's my take. I do think Serie A actually is, on the rise. Maybe even the second best league right now in Europe.
Okay.
I think it's Premier League and then Serie A.
I'm okay with that. I could come to terms with that. I do think that point of game management is a huge one. It really is. I don't think I'm thinking about it that deeply. I'm thinking more of like, let's look at Champions League, man. Inter face FC Porto, bro, in the round of 16. That's an ass squad within the context of the Champions League.
Yeah.
Then who do they face? They fucking face off against Benfica, who lost all momentum by the time they faced each other off. AC Milan faced off against Tottenham this season, who just conceded 5 goals in 20 minutes this past weekend. And then they face off against a Napoli squad who, yes, great result, and I already gave them the credit for, but it's a domestic rival, and they figured out how to fucking top them. All of a sudden, you have an all-Italian semifinal, and people are losing their fucking minds. And I'm like, let's think about who they face. Let's think about what's happened in the buildup. I don't think it's that impressive, but I don't know. Can I agree with both sides a little bit here?
Because I do agree. I agree with what you're saying.
I agree. I think a little bit more luck is involved. I don't know, maybe luck of the draw is involved
absolutely
than skill. But at the same time, I do give credit to what they've been able to achieve so far as a whole. And second best league, I mean, I think the only trouble I have with that is that they don't have as dominant top 2 as La Liga right now.
Well, that's what's frustrating that's what's frustrating is that when you look at, and that's why I'm frustrated, is when you look at Serie A, Napoli is a crazy outlier. It's crazier than what we've seen Bayern do like in recent years. Like a 17-point lead, bro. That's crazy. It's truly absurd. So, again, what Napoli have done this season, I don't think can just go ignored. Yeah. The consistency they've had over the domestic league might be unparalleled at this point. Like, even Barcelona, like, the max they'll do is, like, 15-20. And that's in Barca's prime. Or Madrid, for example. But for Napoli to do that right now, I think is pretty crazy. But to go back to your initial point, I do agree with you. The luck of the draw, but also... and we could talk about this again, the format of the current UEFA Champions League is very flawed. It is very, very flawed. Like, for example, somehow, even though Arsenal won the Europa League, probably should have been in the Champions League. But, like, how do you get that to happen? All things considered, should have been in the Champions League, right? Yeah. Over, let's say, like a third-place French team. Yeah, do you see what I'm saying? So the whole thing is 100% flawed. But it gets really tricky because how do you project who are going to be the best teams in the next following year? That's where it gets really tough. And obviously, I don't blame UEFA because the format that they have now does work, but it is still flawed. There are improvements to be made to make sure that you have the best teams playing each other. And this is a case that's very extreme where you had Tottenham in the knockout round. That shouldn't happen realistically, but considering the group that they were in And what they were able to achieve last year, it just so happened to be. So you're right. Like for me, what you're saying just definitely points out like chaos, like flaw and draws.
Inter facing two Portuguese sides back to back is what gets me. I'm like, man, not one German team or English team in that process,
you're right.
man.
Yeah, you're right.
And I was looking at like Liverpool's race to get into the top 4, and I was like, man, it's crazy that in order to get the Champions League football in the Premier League, you have to be a top 4 side. Yeah. Whereas, like, I feel like if you're top 6, like, you're deserving of it, man. Like, Brighton might not
That's my point.
Brighton might not even get European football this season, which is crazy. But I would put them up. I'd probably put them above FC Porto, or probably the best of Portugal right now, man.
Exactly.
It's a little flawed.
Yeah. And how do you fix that? I don't know. Obviously, they are going to try to change the format, but how they seed everybody, who gets included, are they going to change the amount of teams that come from the domestic leagues? I haven't looked into it that far, but I think it is set to change like in the next year or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, improvements need to be made because you're absolutely right. Like Inter playing Porto and then Benfica, for as good as seasons they have, you're right. I would say the 5th or 6th place Premier League team is probably just as good as the 2nd or even 1st place team in Portugal. 100%.
Europa League semifinal matchups are Juventus against Sevilla and Roma versus Bayer Leverkusen. Juventus defeating Sporting CP 2-1. Sevilla pouncing and trouncing, is that a word, on Manchester United at home, defeating them 3-0 to win 5-2 on aggregate. Sevilla and Juventus will be facing off against each other. And on the other side, Roma defeating Feyenoord 4-2 on aggregate after a really nice comeback at home. And Leverkusen going off on Union St. Gilloise in that second leg and earning themselves the right to be in the Europa League semifinals. Let's start off with Juventus Sevilla. Who do you see winning this match?
This is tough because I actually wanted to ask you, did you see the Sevilla game?
I saw highlights for that one.
Fuck, I didn't see it at
highlights
all.
For that one, but seemed pretty straightforward from what I gathered.
But what happened, man?
I think Manchester United imploded, dude. I think they imploded, bro. Why is that funny?
It's just sad.
Yeah, I think they just broke down. They imploded.
They broke
completely
down, bro.
Yeah. Which is crazy because a week later they go and get a result against Brighton in a FA Cup semifinal.
Exactly.
But away at Sevilla, huge mistake by Harry Maguire at the back to just add on to the memes and to the jokes and everything that he is criticized for. He got the start, but he didn't do well in that start. Handed the ball off, lost possession. Easy goal for En-Nesyri to make it 1-0. And that stadium was rocking, dude. That's the vibe I got from the highlights. I was like, oh, shit. Like, the moment they got the league, it became a mental test for Manchester United. And I don't think they had enough in them to be able to step up in that moment and get back into the match. They were attacking. They were trying to find ways to get a goal. But ultimately, man, once Sevilla got the second goal off of, I think it was a corner kick, things just looked over. And Manchester United bent the knee, and Sevilla just cut their fucking heads off. And they won, man. They won 3-0. And just,
it's so big. That's why I'm so shocked by it.
It's shocking because of Sevilla and their place in La Liga right now, the whole season that they've had. But, bro, I mean, you shouldn't be that surprised, man. Like, we talk about the legacy Real Madrid has within the Champions League. This is football heritage here, brother.
I know. It's the same thing, but in Europa League, bro.
This is the same thing, man. So, what you questioning this victory for, bro? They won it, and they won it fair and square. And this is Sevilla, brother. This is a championship winning club when it comes to this tournament. And at the end of the day, I'm just gonna put it onto that as to why they were able to beat Manchester United in that setting.
I did hear about the Maguire mishap, if you will, and the amount of like hate / joke / comedic content that you get out of Maguire now is. I'm actually a little annoyed by it now. To the point I'm just like, if you're Maguire, maybe get out of there.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Truly.
Producer Reb, pull up. I think something that adds to your point completely. Go to YouTube. We won't play the video. Just want to see the comment section of the highlights of this.
Okay, yeah.
Watch, dude.
Right.
It was one simple fucking.
The mistake.
It was one mistake.
And I'm sure it's bad. I understand that, but. Like, if you're Maguire's therapist, God bless you.
Look at this, man. So you're talking about the annoying hate that he gets at this point. Look at the comment section, bro. Look at this comment section. At this point, Manchester United are going to need another center back just to defend against Maguire. None of this has to do with Sevilla, bro. I'm in
You're right.
4 comments
3-0 win.
Yeah. 5. I'm down to the 6th, 7th comment in a row. That's
Keep
about
going.
Maguire. 8.
Maguire.
9.
Maguire,
10.
Maguire.
11. 12.
Maguire.
13.
Maguire.
14.
Wow.
And then finally, Mehdi. If you scroll up for me. Mehdi Akuri says, I'm honestly surprised, impressed, and glad that Sevilla won. Finally, a comment about Sevilla, man.
I bet he's Moroccan.
That's what it's gotten to, though, man. The Maguire.
Yeah, man, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm officially done with it as a football fan, as a viewer, as someone who likes to do football jokes. Done with it, man. It's a joke that has been beaten to death, man. Yeah. But I do wonder, like, does it affect Maguire? I have no idea.
I wonder.
It has to.
I wonder.
It has to the point where, like, just go play in Norway, somewhere really remote.
Yeah,
you know, really just
go to Italy.
Go to low key,
like what Chris Smalling did.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah,
very
go to Roma.
Go.
Honestly, you could probably revive his career. Like, he's not that bad of a player. I understand that he does make some really bad mistakes, but I think it's just the mental aspect of what is going on around him probably adds to his performances. Like, how can you not, like, what we just saw, how can you not hear about it? Like, it's ridiculous. I follow this guy on YouTube who's just a Man U fan. Every other post is somehow mocking Maguire. And that's a Man United fan. And I know he's that bad, I'm sure. But, like, Jesus Christ, man. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, and I think the psychological factor, like, is huge. I mean, yesterday I was playing soccer at the park, and, like, I started off good, but then there's a moment where I got into, like, a bad stint. Yeah. And just every ball that was coming to me ended up with a negative impact. And I got in my head, bro. Like, I was getting in my head. I was like, fuck, dude. It's not even about what I'm doing with my feet. I'm in my head right now. Right. And I can't figure out how to fucking get back into that mode I was in when I started off the whole day. And if you kind of think about that more expansively, bro, you're thinking about a stage where you're seen by millions every single time, and you're already expected to fail. And you know that if you do, jokes are going to be made, that you're going to be criticized. That's going to be a nightmare of a reaction. That's really tough to overcome. And the best way to just kind of avoid that is by switching sceneries, man.
That's what
I'm surprised by the fact that he stayed on, man. Like, he stayed at Manchester United this far. And we're probably going to see a little bit more of him now with Lisandro Martinez being out for the rest of the season. Right. So we'll see what happens with this future, brother. But if I was him, I would go. Juventus Sevilla is going to be a fun matchup. But I do think the Europa League prowess that Sevilla has ends here. I do not want to see, and I repeat, I do not want to see a bottom tier La Liga side lift the Europa fucking league, man. I do not. Give me Juve, who's feeling themselves after a 15-point surplus.
What a boost. Holy shit.
They've been playing well. Basically, ever since the punishment, they started playing a lot better. I remember they started off the season really, really bad, but since that punishment happened, they've been on a pretty good streak. Yeah. And within the Europa League, just beat a really strong and stout Sporting CP team. I'm going Juve in this one, man.
Yeah, I'm just going to go based off of squad pedigree, talent, footballing skill. Juve have the clearly better squad. I just don't see Sevilla beating this team. Although I will say Sevilla showed an incredible grit at home against Manchester United. When's the first leg? Do we know what the first leg is? Do we have that information?
May 11th.
Oh, sorry, not win. Where?
Juventus. It's in Turin.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it could be the similar situation. If Sevilla can keep it tight in Italy, go back to their own crowd in Sevilla, then maybe anything's possible. But I would prefer to see Juventus in the final just because I think they have more talent.
And then the other side of the coin is Roma against Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen, I think, is a team that's on a journey, a team that has a destiny. Agendas, they're beautiful. They're a beautiful thing to have in football. It's amazing to see a take you had from an early time in your life come to fruition a few months later. And when it comes to this Bayer Leverkusen squad, the moment that Xabi Alonso got hired, the moment I started to just keep an eye on them, I've been nothing but impressed with how they've been able to just grow as a team, how they've been able to compete against good, against mid, and against bad teams. Yeah. I love the attacking talent that they have on display. I love this team, man. I really do. And in the last Europa League preview that we made, I made a point to express that love I have for this team and express my genuine prediction for what I see for them in this tournament. And I think that still stands. I not only see this team defeating Roma, bro, I see this team lifting the Europa League trophy and becoming champions of this tournament in 2022, 2023. Xabi Alonso winning the tournament in his first year with this squad, becoming the next big head coach that's on the market, potentially going over to fucking Bayern Munich at this point if Tuchel leaves, and just being the next man up, man. And then we can talk about the fucking players they have, because the players they have are incredible all around, with studs like Florian Wirtz, the youngster, 19 years old, Moussa Diaby, Adli, the 20-year-old Czech Republic forward that just bagged himself a brace in the league this past weekend. The attacking options are endless. This team is so fun to watch, and I think they're destined for something really, really good. And just given the fact that they went through a crazy, I believe, round of 32 matchup against Monaco a month and a half ago, and won that 5-4 on aggregate, the way that they were able to go to Belgium and get a result against Union Saint-Gilloise at the end of the day away from home, I just think they're meant for something special, dude. So I'm going Bayer Leverkusen for this matchup and for the tournament.
I think Roma are going to make it really tough for them. Truly. I don't think Roma are the better team. I see them as incredibly even, to the point where I'm going to go ahead and lean on my previous take. I think Italian teams can deal with adversity just a little bit better. Add in the idea that you have the mastermind of Jose Mourinho, who just won the Europa League Conference last year. Now they're vying for the Europa League proper. I think it's going to be incredibly tough for Bayer Leverkusen to win this tie. I actually have Roma going through, not because they have the better squad, not just based on pure merit. I just think they're going to grind over the two legs against a very good German side. I see these two teams as very equal, but if I had to pick one, I am going Roma. So yeah, I got Roma in the final.
Juve in the finals, where you're at now.
Juve and Roma in an all-Italian final.
I'm going Bayer Leverkusen, Juventus in the final. Well, then we already know who I'm going for in the final. Who are you going for in a Juventus-Roma final?
Oh, shit. I'll go for Roma. And honestly, I think they have pretty even squads. Juventus, I think, are in slightly better form for sure, but Roma aren't doing that bad either themselves, especially in the latter half of the season. So I think it's going to be, if it is a Roma-Juventus final, it's going to be incredibly tight. It's going to be fucking lit because you have two Italian rivals going at one another. I'll be going for Roma, 100%.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that the Mourinho status.
Oh, yeah, that'd be dope.
Class of Mourinho.
That'd be dope.
Again, dude.
Yeah.
Some of the photos I saw from his celebration last year winning the Europa Conference League, I thought were just so cold, man.
Yeah,
so
man.
Cold.
It's Mourinho, baby.
It's Mourinho. He's a serial winner. And if he does it again, man, but he's just slowly progressing from tournament to tournament, he's like a fucking managerial Thanos, man, just collecting stones. Collecting stones and on his way to fucking greatness. All right, and finally we have the Europa Conference League semifinals set, ready to go, with Fiorentina facing off against Basel, and then West Ham facing off against AZ Alkmaar. AZ had a crazy comeback against Anderlecht, being down 2-0, coming back, pushing it to penalties, and then Australia's finest, Matt Ryan, helping them get the result. Right. West Ham defeated Ghent at home in the second leg, defeating them 4-1 finally after a really close first leg tie. And then on the other side, Fiorentina, as we spoke about, had an insane game against Lech Poznan at home, where they came back, but ultimately Fiorentina was able to see it out and get the result 6-4 on aggregate. 10 goals in this tie, man. Pretty crazy. And then likewise, on the other side, 7 goals in total, with Basel beating Nice 4-3. Another crazy matchup. This tournament has just had such a crazy, chaotic nature to it. And I think that's going to continue in these semifinals, with Fiorentina facing off against Basel. And hey, man, imagine a team like Basel making it to the fucking final of a Europa Conference League. To me, that's what this tournament represents. Giving teams of that level the opportunity to get European silverware. Something that could have never happened, even at the Europa League level, man.
Watching the Europa League Conference this year in detail has really made me wish football is more of like a sitcom that you could go back to and just watch an episode.
For sure.
Because I cannot recommend everybody enough to go back and watch the Lech Poznan against Fiorentina tie. I'm talking about both games. It was an incredible episode. Go back and watch Fiorentina Lech Poznan episode because, oh my God. And I'm talking about all the way back to the first minute of the first leg. And it's crazy because the first game was 4-1 to Fiorentina.
Yeah.
You look at it on the surface value, even if you just look at the highlights, you would not get what actually happened in the game. The game itself was incredible. Nico Gonzalez, Argentine player who actually won the World Cup. He was a part of that squad, didn't really play, but he was there. As you already said, Argentines all around the world feeling themselves. Yes, Gonzalez is one of them. Starts off that game hot, but Poznan respond Belde with a banger of a goal, 1-1. But then the rest of the game was a masterclass on how to manage the game from Fiorentina. Because they let Poznan just go at them. They absorbed all of that pressure and they tired out Poznan. They tired them out. And then come the second half, 3 unanswered goals to win the game in Poland 4-1. But that first half, you would not have guessed that that would have been the end result. Then you go to Italy. It's a 3-goal differential. And how do Poznan start the fucking game on the road? Electric. They go at him. They go completely at the Florentines. I don't know how you say it. But it was an incredible start to the game. They get an early goal, and immediately you get a taste of hope that, hey, maybe Poznan can pull this off. I'm not saying they will, but maybe they can. 60 minutes later, it is tied on aggregate. And you go through that adventure, and you would have seen why it came to be. Because Poznan played an incredible match, man. An incredible match. Hebocho, Joel Pereira on either side, 2 Portuguese fullbacks. So involved offensively. But then you have, whether it's Sobiek or Ishak, 2 big men, traditional number 9s up top, waiting for service. But then you have another Portuguese player, Afonso Sosa, just trying to facilitate as much as he can. And then you have Skorash. A random, wide midfielder who gets oddly creative at times. His efficiency rate, low. But his ability on the ball and just to see what he could possibly do, so fun to watch. So there's so many X factors that this Poznan side have, and it all came to fruition in this game that they needed it to. And we are tied 4-4 on aggregate with 15 minutes left. But then we see the class of Fiorentina where they do not panic. They absorb more pressure. And then we get a beautiful volley rebound goal from Sotil. And at that point, that was the dagger. Because as if you're Poznan, bro, you score 3 goals in a row. 3 goals in a row. What more can you do on the road? And at that point, I knew, I was like, that's the dagger. But what an episode, if you will. And I just wish football was more like a trace backable, where you could just easily go back, like you're watching an episode of The Office, you just could, because so many people will never see this tie. And I understand it's the Conference League, I get it, but what an affair it was. I was so entertained for the entire 180 minutes. What a game! But Fiorentina, at the end of the day, even though it got a little hairy, completely deserved it. And that's just a taste of the conference. You already said it. Nice Basel was a crazy 4-3 goal fest. West Ham had crazy goals in the second leg, even though the first leg was pretty tight. And actually, the first half of that second leg, Ghent kind of went at West Ham. They tried. They went for it. There's so many moments in this Conference League quarterfinals, man, where I'm just like, dude, this is what football is all about, man.
It's been so fun.
It's been so entertaining.
And then your boys.
And then my boys, Alkmaar, baby. Alkmaar. Weird first leg where Anderlecht, at home in Belgium, pretty much dominated them, bro. Alkmaar tried, but overall, Anderlecht had the better game plan, and they shut out Alkmaar's offense. And why I would have them beating Anderlecht in the first place, but they completely shut them out. And they ended up getting 2 really good goals and having a big lead going into the Netherlands for the second leg. But of course, what I had predicted in the first place, Alkmaar would not let up, especially at home. And they ended up putting on a perfect offensive performance. Honestly, should have won the game in regulation.
Yeah.
They had way more chances, and they were a little wasteful, I'll be a little honest. But the chance creation was so high. Should have put it home, should have won the game like 3, maybe even 4-2 on aggregate. And they're going to penalties because they lose a little bit of energy, but still, they ended up getting the job done. I do think they were the better team overall. But still, the fact that Anderlecht made it so interesting in that first leg to have a crazy comeback second leg, that's Conference League, baby. I'm having so much fun with this league, bro. I'm having so much fun. And so at the end of the day, yeah, we're left with these.
Sponsored by them, bro. What the hell's going on, man?
I know.
I mean, it's nice. I like it too, but
I'm telling you, man. I low key, it's to the point where. Look, I love that. Low key, it's to the point where, like, if I was given a deal like Champions League or Conference League, I'd easily take the Conference League if I was getting paid.
Yeah.
But dude, what a quarterfinal matchups overall.
We have Fiorentina Basel, and then we have AZ Alkmaar against West Ham.
Right.
And I haven't revealed my selection for any, and now they have you. So
right. So I'm gonna go. I'm
set the stage.
I'm gonna immediately. So stage is already set.
Quick
I'm
fire.
immediately go in. Quick
fire.
Okay,
let's go in.
So I already said, I think in our last Europa Conference League prediction, I had AZ against Fiorentina in the final, and that is exactly how I see it now. Alkmaar will defeat West Ham, and Fiorentina will beat Basel, and we will get an Italian-Dutch Europa League conference final.
Okay. And based off of the last prediction as well, I had Fiorentina West Ham in the final. So I'm sticking to that. And based off of my agenda, which is that I believe no Italian team will lift a European competition trophy this season, right, I have West Ham winning it. And that's what I revealed at first in the last prediction. And I will stick by that now. I still think West Ham just finds a way to edge it out and be able to get a result here. I have West Ham winning this tournament. But real quick, should we, just so we can acknowledge them, maybe they're just the little underdog in the corner, should we mention Basel here, bro?
I wanted to. Just a little bit.
A little?
Simply because Basel have so impressed me.
They got Mo Salah.
They had. They've so impressed me with their ability to just stay in the game.
Yeah.
Both times in both legs against Nice, and actually in their previous matchup too, in the round of 16, they've started every game to where it looks like, oh, Basel's not going to win this. But they just manage the pressure. They absorb everything that's thrown at them, and they're very, very organized. That is one thing I'll give Basel. Their organization at the back is very, very disciplined. And what it does is it allows their offensive line to just kind of work the game slowly, though. There is no flair, no creativity, no one-on-one chances with this Basel team going forward. But as a collective squad, they slowly manage the 90 minutes. And it has really impressed me because usually, when you see a team like this, where it's solid overall, they cave. Whether it's by the 60th, 70th minute, they'll absorb the pressure, but it'll be too much. Yeah. And then they'll eventually lose the game. But Basel will absorb the same amount of pressure, but then actually get slightly more confident because they're like, oh, we're fine. We're handling this. Yeah, maybe we're down 1-0, but that's it. It's a 1-goal margin. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're not going to stop nothing. We're going to keep utilizing our wingers. Amdouni's had a really good campaign so far. Liam Miller, Canadian, also getting a really good performance against Nice in this last game. And they're just going to keep utilizing that width and keep using that good organization. And it ends up leading to good results for Basel. That's the thing, though. I think that's where it's going to stop. Because at the end of the day, I do think you need just a little bit of flair, a little bit of creativity. And I think they are missing that at the end of the day. Whether they play Fiorentina, I think it's very hard. If they somehow manage to beat them, I think they'll have an even harder task against either West Ham or Alkmaar. So for them to lift the trophy, I think it's just a little too far-fetched.
I don't know, man. I think they're going to be a tight contest for Fiorentina, man. I think they're going to be tight. They've scored 4 goals in both of their last 2 matchups in this tournament, which is crazy. I mean, this is the best Basel team they've had in years.
Low key, though.
They're on a magical run, honestly, for them specifically. So I love it. There's good stories here. Our picks have been made. You're going AZ Alkmaar wins the tournament against Fiorentina, and I'm going West Ham wins the tournament against Fiorentina. Bro, can Dortmund win the Bundesliga? You saw what happened.
I saw what happened.
You already know what happened.
Yeah, there's an incredible chance, and if they do,
is there, bro?
I think so. Okay, well, here's what's interesting. So I looked at it. Bayern Munich have the easier schedule remaining.
Oh, you look okay. Good.
I've been
wondering this. Okay,
yeah.
What you got?
So out of the top 10, Dortmund have to play, I think, 3 out of the top 10.
Okay.
Bayern's last hardest game is against Leipzig. They're the only one that they have to play that's in the top 10. Their next 2 games, I believe, or maybe 2 out of 3, is against literally the bottom of the table. So I think that's going to help Bayern out a little bit. But still, Dortmund still have not a crazier, harder schedule, but just slightly more difficult. But it's theirs. It's theirs if they want it. That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not up to Bayern faltering. It's up to Dortmund now to decide if they want the title or not. This is it, man. I don't think there's ever been a more golden chance to take it from Bayern. And if they do win it, this has to go down in history as like one of the greatest shots in the foot from any club ever, with the hiring Tuchel instead of Nagelsmann.
Yeah.
Like,
abysmal decision.
Abysmal decision, bro. It's stupid, man. No, seriously. Like, at this point, fuck Bayern, man. Like, I've always been against like what they're about, but this is pathetic, man. Because they use what they always do. Let's get the best German talent we can. Thomas Tuchel's out of a job, right?
Yeah.
Let's bring him in. Fuck Nagelsmann. They do this on the player level. They do this every year. But finally, it might be backfiring. Maybe, though. It's up to Dortmund to decide that.
I think you're showing a little bit more excitement than I am. I'm not there. I'm not there in terms of like hopefulness and optimism.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still, as long as Bayern is in the race,
right,
they're the favorite. I don't care if they're down 5-6 points. If they're in the race, I think it's theirs to lose. Even still, I know Dortmund is playing great, and God damn it, they're playing really, really good, which I'm proud of. I'm happy for. This past weekend, I thought that game against Frankfurt was going to be a lot closer, man. Frankfurt, you know, they're deep into the domestic cup that's going on right now.
Yeah.
They got studs and Kolo Muani and other players as well, but they got trashed, bro. 4-0.
There were some bangers, though, that, like, Frankfurt couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And there were some really bad mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, Dortmund just on it that day specifically.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, because prior to this Frankfurt game, I thought that Dortmund didn't want it, bro. Because when Bayern were faltering, Dortmund were too. And that Dortmund-Bayern game, Dortmund had way too many mistakes at the beginning of the game, and Bayern just took it. Yeah. They took that big game. But Dortmund have somehow found themselves back to the top of the table. But you're right. My full confidence is not in Dortmund. But if there's ever a chance to take it, it's now. That's my point here. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying, like, it's now or never if you're Borussia Dortmund to get your first title in the last, like, 11 years.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Arsenal-Man City situation, because if they don't do it this year, this is the lowest we've seen Bayern in a while, and I don't think they're going to be this low again, bro. Like, they're going to only find a way to improve from here on out. They have to do it this year, man.
Completely
they have to.
agree.
They have to. It's so similar to Arsenal, Manchester City. And I'm only bringing this up because now that we're deeper into these last few months of the season, it's an exciting time, man. You know, we've been so used to talking about the World Cup. We've been so used to like talking about the startup of the season, what team's looking good, potential predictions and stuff. But we're starting to get to the point when semifinals waiting for us in European competitions, domestic cup finals. It's a good time, man. It's like Christmas, bro. And a major gift that Football Santa gave us is Manchester City against Manchester United in the FA Cup final. Another derby, bro.
Another derby.
That's dope, man.
I love it.
I'm happy, man.
Would have loved to see Brighton, though.
Yeah.
Just personally.
Yeah, of course.
Like, at that point, at the expense of the derby, would have loved to see Brighton.
Yeah, a little disappointing that, I don't know, it would have been cool if this season they would have got even just one trophy.
Yeah,
know? That would have been such a cool feeling knowing how awesome they've been this season.
Don't say that, man. Because, again, like, are they going to be as successful next year? And then that's
trust
the thing,
in the Zerbi, man. Trust in him.
Trust in the Zerbi for sure. But I wonder, like, for example, would Mitoma get a good transfer this summer? Would Caicedo also leave? True. Hell, even McAllister, like, they have studs on their squad, bro. Yeah. Like, studs that could fit into basically any system out there that plays top-level football. And I wonder, are teams going to try to pick this Brighton team apart? Or is our transfer fees going to get in the way to, like, oh, is Caicedo proved enough? Should I pay 30 million on him? You know? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't help that Caicedo plays for Brighton rather than Porto.
That's what I was going to bring up,
doesn't
bro.
help.
Like, this is a much different situation. You got me thinking now. Like, you think about the Ajax team, the Monaco team that was special, or even any Benfica squad. They get picked apart because Ajax is in the Netherlands, bro. Like, that's a lower division team, lower league team. Porto as well, Benfica as well, all the Portuguese squads. But Brighton's damn near top 5 in the Prem.
Yeah.
Like, there's not much else to upgrade to at this point.
Right. It's just like the ones literally right above you.
Yeah, so
ideally.
Yeah, so will they get picked apart, bro?
I wonder. I truly do wonder. So like, Brighton and Wrexham are going to be on my top transfer window, like where I'm going to be completely looking at who are they getting and who is leaving.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be awesome if I just think because of the way they've been performing almost like a not a big team but like a top 6 team in the Prem.
Yeah,
and that's like a very prestigious place to be in. So will they operate like a top 6 team in the offseason? That's my big question.
Oh, so you're saying the reverse? They get people.
Yeah. Will we see the opposite? Will they fucking just
man.
lure in some awesome players to just help them improve?
Yeah.
And just kind of keep at it? Or maybe will they kind of be like an Aston Villa, a team that's kind of like mid-table, and then get some really good players, spend some money, and then they have a magical season like the one they're having right now. Because God damn it, bro, Aston Villa's in 5th place, man.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But Manchester City, Manchester United in the FA Cup final.
Right. Yeah.
At Wembley Stadium, bro.
I know, but
I'm not seeing you perked up.
Because it's just going to be City. It's just going to be City. It'll be fun, sure. It'll be fun. Yeah, is that what you want me to say? It's going to be City all day long, man.
I don't know, man. For some reason, I think because it's Manchester United, I'm not saying they have their number because they don't. But
it might give the players
think this
extra.
might be one of the few games left in Manchester City's schedule where they don't blow out a team. This is going to be a close one. I see this being a close one, man.
Okay.
Big stage, big setting. Manchester United, the ability to win 2 trophies this season would be huge. I think it's going to be a tight one. God damn it. I end up same conclusion. I got Man City.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. God damn it. I try to convince myself into the other side, but I can't. I can't. Manchester City, if they win this, if they win the Champions League, and if they win the Prem,
don't even say that, because that would be ridiculous.
Treble.
It'd be crazy. Treble.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening and watching us. Remember to rate us 5 stars on Spotify. It helps out a ton. And likewise, check out our YouTube. Subscribe, comment, and like. And as always, you'll find us on Instagram and on TikTok with our crazy ass reels, man. Until next time, guys, we'll talk to you and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.